fresh fruits out the juicer. Since juvie jail taught well, I'm a trooper. If she could tell us a Louis smell like a scooper. And the black bluish SL bumping Luther. St. Lucia, linen shorts and loafs. Been across the coast, contenders call me the GOAT. Why quote when women open their throats? Sophisticated.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Maximilian Must Know. We're going to be talking about a scent that is just perfect for the fall and winter, also extremely affordable. The quality fragrances suited for colder weather tend to be more expensive because they're meant to last longer, and usually they'll contain very strong ingredients like oud, tobacco, musk, sandalwood, leather, cognac. The fragrances have to cut through that thick, heavy air and hopefully last for a day. And this fragrance is called Eau de Baux, and it comes from the French house L'Occitane, which is, from what I understand, basically the French version of the Body Shop, but it's of a much higher quality. I'm quite familiar with this brand because they have several locations in New York City and are also sold at shops that I like to frequent, like Sephora and Pastor's Pharmacy. I have several other products from the company, as their shaving products are quite esteemed in the wet shaving world. I have their caged soap as well as their pre-shave oil. L'Occitane's relatively newer company. It was started in 1976 by a gentleman named Olivier Bossan, who was only 23 at the time. And the word L'Occitane means the woman from Occitania, which is a region in southern Europe that crosses through France, Monaco, Italy, and Spain. And Occitan was the main language spoken in this region. That's where Bossan was from, and he really wanted to recreate some of the aromas from that region. So he purchased a steam distiller, which at the time was not being used, and produced his own rosemary oil from rosemary that he would gather in the countryside. That oil sold really well and became the foundation of the brand in the store that would become L'Occitane en Provence. The original store was opened in Vaux, which is a small village in the Provence region. And then in another village, he came across an unused soap-making factory, and he started to churn out vegetable soaps using classic methods of soap making. And basically in the 1990s, he sold some interest in this company to partner up with some business people so that he could expand the line even further. And that worked out really, really well. L'Occitane now is in more than 80 countries, so very impressive. And what L'Occitane takes great pride in is making a multitude of products, including hand creams, moisturizers, soaps, shaving soaps and creams, fragrances, and they use old school methods to make their products with locally sourced ingredients like lavender, rose, rosemary, immortal. They also are quite invested in being fair trade, organic, and environmentally responsible. And as of this video, they have 80 fragrances in their catalog, although several since have been discontinued. This fragrance was released in 1999. It was inspired by knights. L'Eau de Baux province is a legendary city fortress in the south of France. And this was inspired by that city and the knights that guarded it. And those knights wore cypress trees as a symbol of their strength and courage. And you'll see on the bottle and the box, it's the dark red and gold colors that the soldiers of the soldiers' uniforms. Now, I believe there's only one size of this fragrance, 100 ml for $52, which is a very fair price. As far as the presentation goes, it's a very standard box. Nothing, too ridiculous about it. It does have a batch code on the bottom. As far as the bottle goes, really nice apothecary style glass. The label is crooked, which for whatever reason just really bothers me. It should be further to the center. All that money, in all those stores, and they can't get the labeling correct. And the cap is just a flimsy little cap. But aside from that, everything else is fine. The atomizer works really well, and it is a nice, heavy, relatively heavy glass bottle. But again, crooked label. Notes on the fragrance are going to be cypress, incense, cardamom, coumarin, vanilla, amber, and red peppercorn. And I'll start with two things. One is that for the money, this is one of the best fragrances you're ever going to come across. There are fragrances that cost 3 times as much as this that don't come anywhere near accomplishing what Eau de Baux does. This was a really well thought out scent with extremely high quality ingredients used. The second thing is this should really shame stores like the Body Shop. I don't have anything against those stores. I have 2 or 3 of their fragrances. Nothing against them at all. But nothing I've smelled from them is in the neighborhood of this fragrance. And forget the neighborhood, they're not even on the same planet. When you first spray this on, you're going to get a tremendous amber blast. It has an opening similar to L'Artisan Parfume's Tea for Two. Lots of people compare this fragrance to Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille, which is a over $200 fragrance. But I think this reminds me more of Tea for Two, which is a masterpiece by Olivier Giacobetti that's been discontinued. When this dries down, it becomes almost powdery. And then for about a half an hour, the vanilla really comes out with the coumarin. Coumarin, to my nose, differs from regular vanilla. It doesn't really smell like vanilla extract or vanilla bean, more like a cooked vanilla Nilla wafer sort of thing going on. And then you get a little hint of sweet pipe tobacco. That's incredible for a fragrance at this price point. This would be a great Christmas gift for someone, or a good way to get someone who likes sporty and fresh fragrances into more dark and interesting fragrances. Now, as it develops, a bit more of the potency drops off, and that's where its price really shows. You know, with a little more budget, they could have made this one stand up a little bit longer, but it is quite pleasant as it dries down. You get some cypress and cardamom. I also get like a little cherry cola accord, and of course some incense, which is very well done, and it's in there just the entire time. If you're looking for something like Tobacco Vanille but don't want to spend that money, I think you could be happy with this. One of the fragrance bros, I believe it was Dave, said that this reminded him of eggnog, and I totally get that and see that. I really can't wait to wear this colder weather around the holidays. Now, longevity isn't great, but projection and sillage are both above average. Absolutely could be a unisex scent, maybe not for every woman, but I think some would really like this, and I think 3 sprays is probably good. It will really coat you well. And even though off the top it might seem like a bit, it's going to settle down quickly and you'll have decent projection at least for a couple of hours. I'm going to give this fragrance a 7 out of 10. I'm really only taking points off because the packaging isn't great, my label's crooked obviously, and I don't like the cap, but also because the longevity is spotty, which is frustrating in a few different ways. You know, this is close to being an absolutely gorgeous fragrance and at an obscene price point, so it really disappoints me that it doesn't last that long on my skin. But I also think that you'd be insane to not have this bottle in your collection if you really are a fragrance junkie, because at the price point it's very hard to find something in this genre at all, and definitely not better. Most houses that take stabs at these kind of fragrances are very specialized niche brands like Tom Ford's Private Blends or Byredo or L'Artisan. So for a chain store to have had the foresight and courage to release something different from so many other chain stores is really bold. If you look at L'Occitane's other fragrances, they're really a lot more bland than this. I mean, they have some in the back catalog that are interesting, but if you look at what's on their shelf now, it's all pretty unspectacular. Their latest release, Verdun, is a really boring synthetic fragrance. So this is far and away the best in the bunch, and there's been constant rumor and speculation that this might be discontinued, so I recommend picking it up already if you haven't. You know, in baseball they refer to certain pitchers as pitchers that can come into the games when games have already been decided. Those are inning eaters, those pitchers. They're just around to do a serviceable job, and that's what Eau de Baux is. It can be a great filler fragrance in the colder months on days when you don't want to break out the Tobacco Vanille or the Jubilation 25s, but you still want to smell good and smell different. This could be that scent, so definitely check it out. Anyway, that is going to be the review for this week. We have 2 episodes coming up next week. One is another sample shopping episode, and the other will be a review of a Creed scent that I didn't like for a very long time that I'm starting to come around to. Also, if any of you saw my video on Bermuda Perfumery's fragrances, I got a lot of questions about those, and so I've been in contact with the owner of the perfumery, and she's agreed to let some viewers, audience members, get samples from her. She's going to send some of you guys free samples. So I'm going to work that out from her. Hopefully I'll have more information on it in the middle of next week. I'll tell you what to do to get some free samples, because a lot of you guys were very skeptical of my claims of it being that good. So we're gonna show you guys that it really is good, and she's gonna send free samples to some lucky members, subscribers. So stay tuned for that next week. And again, 2 videos next week: a sample shopping episode where I have some really great fragrances, some really high-end niche fragrances like an Amouage Attar and Creed's Windsor, a fragrance from Slumber House that I'm really excited to get my hand on, a Frederic Malle fragrance that not too many people talk about, a couple of Montals. I got a lot of good fragrances coming, samples. Andy Tower from the Decant shop. Andy Tower's L'air de Desert Marocain is coming. So just good stuff that you should be excited for, and we'll get you guys some free samples from Bermuda Perfumery. So thank you so much for watching. I am Maximilian.
Can lead the slaughter of quarters, deeper waters. Seek a come over, speak sweet Sephora. Too neat to lauder, too at peace for fraud ya. I applaud you. If all the brushes ain't dog your bros, trying to destroy your whores of the Pandora. On camcorder, caught with a gram shorter.